are back with another episode of the Forsyth Mags podcast. And today I have two very special ladies on. I have Katie Allen, the Assistant Chief of the Winston-Salem Police Department, and Annie Sims, the Public Information Officer at WSPD. Hi, ladies.
Hi, Brooke.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming to chat with me today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that it is two females talking about law enforcement, or three females. I'm a female too, I guess. And Tim, we'll allow you to say it's fine.
I'm honorary.
So we want to talk all things Winston-Salem PD today, and I want to just give a quick shout out to Annie because she is very humble, but she has been a very big part in helping to bump up these recruitment numbers lately and increase the Winston-Salem Police Department's social media exposure. Yeah. And you should be really proud of that, Annie.
I am. I'm very proud, and I'm excited. I want the police department to succeed, so I am excited to see them. And we have a big recruit class, and we have another big one coming, so we're excited.
Tell us about some of these recruitment numbers.
So we have our biggest class in the last 5 years, so we're excited, and 75% of them found out about us on social media.
Wow.
That's what they reported, so they heard about us. That doesn't mean that that was the reason they applied. So we got a lot of interest, so we have 28 that will hopefully successfully complete our academy. On September 20th will be their graduation, so they have 6 weeks left, and they're very excited. They are very done with the process because it's a 30-week process. So we spend a lot of time with them. We get to enjoy getting to know them. I spend a lot of time with them, so we're looking forward to the next class, and we already have a lot of people looking to apply and taking the reading test and moving forward. So
yeah, well, and it sounds like it's a big class, but still a small enough group that they can really get to know one another over those 30 weeks.
Yeah, those trials really bring you closer, getting tased together and getting pepper sprayed together.
Yeah, Katie, I was going to ask you, so I know you have some recruitment experience. What does, like, if our listeners are interested in, like, potentially signing up for recruitment, what does that look like? What does that process look like?
It will make every parent fearful when your child says, hey, I want to be a police officer. But I think you just have to have a heart for service. You have to really have a desire to make your community better. And then you have to know that you could lay down your life for other people. And so I think that you have to recognize the realities of the job, that there is a physicality to it, that you're probably going to get punched, you're probably going to get kicked, you're probably going to get called names, but it is also one of the most rewarding and satisfying careers you could possibly have because you have the opportunity to help people in probably the worst moment of their life a lot of times, and you bring that comfort and that peace to people. So I think it's just very rewarding all around, but very hard.
Yeah, I'm sure. So this 30-week process, what does that look like for the recruits?
So they start off, it's kind of baby steps, but initially they start off, we start with some physical training. There's a lot of classroom. There's a lot of academics. But the physical training, they start out really tough because you kind of want to see...
And weed out the...
I mean, that's what it does, essentially, is you do weed out folks that thought, like, maybe I could do this, and then they realize very quickly, like, maybe this isn't for me. And you don't want them to spend 20 weeks in an academy to realize that this wasn't for me. Yeah. And so there's a lot of physical fitness training, and then they go through firearms training, driver's training, use of force training, and then it progresses into really more hand-to-hand stuff where you're actually doing scenario-based, you're actually putting this stuff to use. You actually have field sobriety training where we bring people in and we have them drink alcohol, and we do testing like you would on the side of the road. So there's a lot to it. It's very complex, and we see some people succeed, some people don't, but it's a great training, and Winston's probably got the best training in the state, I would say, in the country, really. Yeah. It's fantastic, yeah.
So 30 weeks, is it like, I'm assuming it's daily, Monday through Friday?
Yep.
All day, every day.
All day, every day. There's some evenings in there. They'll adjust their schedules because obviously we want them to learn how to stop a car at night. So you want them to be exposed to darkness and things like that. So there is some training in the evenings, but it's generally Monday through Friday.
What is the first thing that comes to mind that people that are in the recruitment classes are like, wow, this really surprised me at how challenging this was, or I wasn't expecting this particular
I think for a lot, it's the multitasking that you're having to remember policy, procedure, law, and at the same time, you might have to be fighting someone, or having to struggle to put them in handcuffs or figure out what techniques to use. So there's a lot of multitasking, and then the report writing aspect I think is challenging because the reports that we write are very complex, and they have to have so much detail in them. And so if you're not very good with writing, that can be a struggle and a challenge for you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So Annie, what drew you to the Winston-Salem Police Department? What's the story there?
So I left college in 2020 after COVID. I graduated. I didn't know what I was going to do. So actually, before I graduated, I had an opportunity with the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office. So I worked for Sheriff Kimbrough for about 3 years, and I enjoyed my time there. And then I was looking to expand beyond and go to a larger agency, which the Winston-Salem Police Department is larger. Expand kind of what I was looking to do with social media and kind of grow it from the bottom up. The Forsyth County Sheriff's Office was already kind of established, so I wanted a new opportunity. So I went over to the police department to work for Chief Penn, and I love him dearly. He is a great boss. So he's kind of let me have free reign with my team to do what we need to do to get the message out and to achieve our goals on social media, as well as I handle the media aspect of things. So he and the leadership, as well as the assistant chiefs, let us kind of do our thing. And I have 2 additional members now. So we just hired somebody else, and an officer actually moved over to work with me as well. So there's 3 of us total. So one's an officer, so we have a sworn officer, and then we have just a regular civilian like me.
Awesome. So what's been your strategy for social media, and what are some things that have worked really well, things that maybe didn't work so well?
So our goal is to set a very high standard. So we are very hard on ourselves. Our standard is higher than anyone else. So our goal really is to showcase our officers. I think we have an agency, we're short a lot of officers, it's not a secret, but we have an agency of 300 to 400 officers that we need to showcase, right? So we spend our time showcasing each individual one. We do up closes with them, personal stories, all sorts of things. And then that also makes them feel good. The internal morale is boosted when they may say they may not want to be in a photo, but they really do, as you learn. So they all hate it, but then when you do it. So we're focusing on showcasing the officers because that also builds relationships with the community, which is what we want. Things that haven't worked, we're going to run into certain things. We do highlight some criminal aspects of things, like some of our successes, but people, don't like some of the crime stuff we talk about, or they don't like some of the policies we have, or whatever it might be. But there's going to be people that don't like what we do anywhere. So we kind of take it. And I'm one that will quickly snap back at someone on social media if they are presenting false information. So we do clarify, we're very educational, but our whole goal is this year to highlight every single division in our department, and we're about halfway there at this point.
Awesome. So, what are all the divisions?
There is tons of them, but we have three main bureaus. Field Services Bureau, which is what Assistant Chief Allen's over, that's our patrol division.
Okay.
Criminal Intelligence Bureau, that's going to be like our gang unit, our VFIT unit, which is violent firearms. So all of our specialized units, including Real-Time Crime Center, which is our big technology advancement downtown. And then the last one is the Investigative Services Bureau, and that's going to be like our narcotics unit and criminal investigations division.
Okay.
So.
Very cool. So, Chief Allen, I want to talk about what it's like being a female in law enforcement.
So I feel like I haven't had a ton of struggles. I feel like in the South, where we are, that it's just kind of different. Like men, and it's not all men, but a lot of men, they respect women, and they were raised with a mom or a sister or an aunt. And so I've been on calls where I've watched a man sit there scream and curse out a male officer and then apologize for using that language in front of me. Now, there have been instances, I have been, punched, and I have been hit by a grown man. But I feel like my biggest thing is I feel like women bring a different perspective to a scene. I feel like they can be a calming presence. Mm-hmm. There's not, I guess you don't have to go in there and prove yourself as I'm the biggest, strongest person in here. I'm just trying to solve your problem. And so I think that women bring a lot of that peace and calm to a situation. I think we bring a different perspective. I think there's, the compassion and not that our male officers don't have it, but I think women bring that unique perspective to it.
Yeah.
I do feel like I've never felt like I had to prove myself up against a male. I look at, we all have our own individual talents and perspectives. And so I think you just have to get comfortable in expressing those in a male-dominated field when they're maybe not used to hearing that different perspective. So you just have to be vocal about it.
Yeah, I've never really, it makes a lot of sense, but I've never really thought about that. But women do, I'm sure, bring a totally different emotional intelligence to a situation than men do.
Absolutely.
It's just how we're wired.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
From an outsider, though, like watching the recruit class and stuff, I will say, and for me personally, the men at the Winston-Salem Police Department and everywhere are some of the most supportive men to women that you'll ever see, which is awesome. They want you to succeed. It's not a competition to them, and they want females in the force of them because we are naturally more compassionate. But they're some of the most supportive, big brother, whatever they want for you. They will do anything for you, and they will protect you. But then they also realize that you can handle it yourself at the same time.
Right.
I'm sure that is not the case at every police department around the country.
Yeah, and I've talked to other female officers who don't have that same perspective. So I feel very fortunate to have always felt supported and like I was an equal in law enforcement.
Yeah, that's great. What drew you to the Winston-Salem Police Department?
So I was a lifeguard for the City Recreation and Parks Department from all the time I was in high school and through college. That allowed me to meet the Winston-Salem Police Department's park ranger who would come by the pool. And so I knew him for a couple of years. I would always love to hear his stories. And that led me to an interest in law enforcement, and that led me to applying. And so I would really say that thanks to Bobby Boyd and the park ranger that he was, he brought me into law enforcement. It was not a career that I had hoped and dreamed to do my entire life. I just knew I didn't want to sit behind a desk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're definitely not doing that. Yeah, what does a typical day in the life look like for you?
So, as a chief, you're kind of more in administration, so I'm more in the office now, but I do try to get out in the field. I do respond on calls with officers, but I get up early, I shuffle my kids to school wherever they're going that day, and then go in. It's meetings and kind of solving the crisis of the day. A lot of times.
Putting out fires.
Yes, putting out fires. But then it's, a lot of checking on officers. Tonight we have our National Night Out. We'll be going to meet with community members who are supportive of the police department and what we do. So there's a lot of that as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's great.
Yeah, I love that. So I want to hear this from both of you, but what is a situation in the years you've been with the police department that is just like the most rewarding, obviously without saying names or anything, but the most like rewarding experience that you can remember for you?
I think for me, I went on a call years ago, went to an incident where a family had lost their child to a fatality car accident. And I think that the parents had reached out because the surviving child, was having difficulty sleeping. And we got to go out and meet the surviving child, take her some stuffed animals, talk with her, engage with her. We took a canine out there. And it was probably in the last 2 years. The girl is now in high school. She still has the bear that we gave her. And so it was something that took 5 minutes of my day way back then. But, to see that it made such a lasting impact on her and that family, and that the police department could be there for them in that moment, that was really, I think, impactful for me.
Is it still called the Spinoza bear?
I don't know. I've not heard that term.
Okay.
We have a lot of different companies that donate bears. We have the Buddy Bear program. These wonderful ladies sew bears and give them to us. So we have just a ton that we give out and we keep in our cars for those situations.
There used to be one called Spinoza. I don't know why it was called that, but an organization that I was part of raised and donated those.
That's awesome. So, we have boxes of bears all over the police department.
Oh, that's very cool. So you mentioned K9 units. How many K9 units are in Winston-Salem?
So we currently have, I think it's 8 K9 units. We actually just got a grant to get another K9. So yes, that's really exciting.
Are they all German Shepherds?
They are Belgian Malinois. Yeah.
All of them.
All of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Have you ever had one?
I am terrified of those canines. I don't go anywhere near them.
I love them. I like them.
Yeah, they can be, I have a German Shepherd, and she's very sweet, but people are terrified of her.
I don't go near them. They all say they're friendly. I'm like, I'll take your word from over here.
That is so funny. Do you have dogs at home?
I have labs at home, and they will lick you to death. But
labs still a little different.
Yes, very
That's
different.
funny.
Very different.
So I want to talk about some misconceptions. I'm sure there are a lot. What is a misconception that you feel like you're constantly like responding to an email of the same question that you're like, no, that's not right?
I would say one of the common misconceptions is, so you hear it from both ends. You hear that we are writing too many speeding tickets or we're not writing any speeding tickets. And
So
there's
you can't win,
you can't
basically.
win. Like you'll have people saying there's speed traps here, and you'll have people saying that you're never out doing this. And we have a whole motorcycle unit that's all they do. And there is a rhyme and reason for why we have to enforce traffic laws. It's our number one complaint that we get from citizens. So the people that are anti getting pulled over, the people probably getting the tickets. But we are out doing all of that. But I think that's one common misconception. I think another common misconception is when they see officers sitting in parking lots, like there's a lot of paperwork in this job, and so
You're not just hanging
You're not
out.
just hanging out. Like there is a lot of paperwork that happens, and so that I think is a very surprising thing for folks.
Yeah.
I think going off of that, we do get a lot of like officers are speeding, and I think people don't realize that we only
clearly have somewhere to go.
We only go code 1 for very certain calls, which is when you're doing your lights and sirens, and people are like, well, why are they speeding when their lights aren't on? They never really run lights and sirens because it freaks people out almost more. So when they're driving fast, like they're likely going code 2 to a call, trying to get to someone who is in distress of some sort.
Yeah.
So we get that a lot. And then the quota of speeding tickets.
Yes.
They all think we have a quota of speeding tickets,
And we
but
do
we
not.
do not. And we can confirm that we do not.
That's
but,
good to know.
Yeah, those are two things that I hear frequently, like through social media.
So how far over the speed limit do you allow?
Every officer's
It's
different.
different.
Every officer's different. So it just would depend on what their rule is. People tend to have like a hard and fast rule, what theirs might be. So
For me, it's double digits. I don't like. to
I
get
don't like
in
double
digits.
digits, and I definitely don't like people passing me in a marked police
Yeah.
car. Like
Oh,
that's
okay.
just
I
crazy.
do want to talk about that. So yeah, a longtime friend of mine did that once and got pulled over, and I'm like, what were you thinking? Like, why would you do that? So I guess I want to talk about that. That's like pretty, to me, common sense. But like maybe when you're driving, don't pass a police
Don't
car.
pass them on,
Yep.
especially if they are like a little bit above the speed limit, and then you're going even faster than
Then
them.
they
Like
know that
just
you're-
don't pass them.
Yeah, that's a common courtesy.
Yes,
It's-
please.
So what's the number one excuse that you hear for people that are speeding when you pull them over?
I've heard
gotta
it
go
all.
to the bathroom.
Well, I've heard that a lot. I've heard I didn't know. A lot of
Yeah.
it's I don't know. I didn't know the speed limit was this. And then most people are very pleasant, like because they're trying to get out of the ticket, so they're going to be friendly and jovial with you. So, but that's the number. Like bathroom is a big one, and then I didn't know the speed limit.
Yeah.
People rely on their GPS too. They're like, "Oh, my GPS said it's 45, but
Oh my
it's really
gosh.
Yeah.
35."
Yeah. I do rely on that too.
my son got a ticket a while back. He was doing 85 going up 52.
Yeah.
And
Yikes.
That's quick.
And he said, "Dad, I had to go to the bathroom." I said, "Well, you should have just done it."
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you're sitting there getting a ticket,
Yeah.
just do it.
I have pulled over on the side of the road before. I'm not proud to admit.
You got to do what you got to do.
I mean, that's truly when nature calls.
Yes.
So,
For sure.
funny story. When I was I have a terrible memory, but I was like probably 7 or 8, riding in the car with my mom down Highway 158. She got pulled over, got a ticket. I was in the car. I was very distraught. Obviously, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna take her to jail or something. And she was having a bad day and was friendly to the officer, but not overly friendly from my memory. And then a few hours later, we're doing our thing. Gets pulled over twice in the same day.
Ooh, that is a bad
I'm
day.
hysterical in the back seat. They're gonna take her to jail. I just know they're gonna take her to jail.
That's
I
a
think
real
that's the
bad
last
day.
time she got a ticket, but when I was 7 or 8. Whew.
Well, lesson learned, I
Yes.
guess.
Very, very upsetting. 'Cause I, knock on wood, have never got a ticket. I'm terrified of.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would just immediately start crying.
That's what my kids
I
say
would
that now. Every
panic.
time they see somebody pulled over, that person getting arrested, I'm like, they're probably just getting a ticket.
That's funny. What's one of the craziest things that you've seen?
Oh, I've seen a lot of crazy things. I think one of the craziest experiences I ever had, I was working the Wake Forest game, and it was a Thursday night game, so it was on ESPN. And I was working on the Hill, which is where all the families sit. So I knew, like, oh, there's nothing going on over here. It's, kids. And I watched a gentleman jump out of the stands onto the field. And I saw him running around, and I was like, man, I don't want to be the police officer on ESPN, like chasing this guy, like trying to catch him on the field. But I was like, I guess I'll start slowly meandering down there to try to get him. Well, he jumped the fence, and he came running right towards me. And I grabbed him, and he pulled away from me, and I ended up having to tase him. And I didn't realize, but you could see it all from the Clemson. It was Clemson, and it was Clemson's side. And they were all, everyone, after I arrested him, I stood up, and everyone was going, yeah!
Did you bow?
And then the guy, he wasn't even a student. He was like 30 years old. And I said, what are you doing? He goes, I thought I'd get away. And I was like, you're in a bowl. Like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
People are wild.
I know. So that was one of the fun. And ever since, like, I worked lots of weight games after that, and people were like, you're the taser cop. And I was like, that's me.
That is so funny. What do you think you probably know, what is the percentage of female police officers right now?
It's pretty small, actually. I think last time we ran it, it was about 10 or 15%.
Really?
Yeah.
Are there recruitment classes? Are you finding that more females are in the most recent recruitment classes?
This one actually has more than we typically would have. So the last one we only had 10 recruits, and we had 1 female out of the 10. This time, I believe we have 4 or 5 females. So there are more coming our way.
Yeah.
But I think some of the reason why we're seeing less females is during COVID and stuff, when people were leaving the field, a lot of them were mothers, because I think job security and childcare were a big issue.
Yeah.
So they were the ones leaving their jobs. So we lost some women through that time frame. I
And
guess.
motherhood really changes your perspective. We see a lot where we will have an officer for a long time, and they have a child, and then they decide to leave the profession. It's a hard pill to swallow as a mom, to come in and do this kind of job. So kudos to all our moms out there that are still, put on the uniform every day, because it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say to women who are like maybe considering the police department, but they're kind of on the fence?
So I have never regretted this job a single day in the 24 years that I've done it. It has been the most rewarding, the most fun. I've met the best people. I just say, give it a try. If you don't want to sit behind a desk, if you want to make a difference, if you want to feel like you are contributing and being impactful to your community, this is the job for you. Like, you have so much opportunity to just see the good in people. I mean, yes, you see like the worst in people too, but you see and you can be there for people in their most difficult times. And I think it's just very satisfying.
That's got to be rewarding. Yeah. So before we wrap things up, are there any things that come to mind that you guys would want to tell like our normal civilians to like be aware of, like as far as safety, as far as like, I don't know, when they're in a crowd, or just things that you wish people would be more cognizant of?
So, I mean, I always tell people, yes, pay attention to your surroundings. But the one thing, the message that I always leave for people when I speak at groups is, tell a police officer thank you. Like, they are doing this job, and they're working holidays and weekends and nights and 12-hour shifts, and they do it for so little. And so if you're at Chick-fil-A and you see one, just tell them thank you, because they have a family at home, and they are dealing with all the things that you don't want to, the kind of the underbelly of the world, so that you don't have to see it. And so we need to appreciate our law enforcement every single day.
And they're people too. I think people can be like scared or like intimidated, but like you guys are people
Their moms,
too.
dads, sisters, brothers. Yeah, they're doing all that. So just tell them thank you.
That's a good message.
I think
like
the
that.
biggest thing from my perspective, make sure that when you see something, say something. We're having a lot of issues throughout the entire community of people not wanting to cooperate with us through bigger investigations, and we just need people to come forward, because one small tip can lead a long way in solving some of these crimes and keeping, the crime off of our streets. So I would just reiterate that. I say it to the media all the time. I say it on social media all the time. And also, don't use social media to spread fake information. Always just reach out to the police department, and we will be happy to, take a report or provide you with the information you need.
Yeah. Awesome. So speaking of social media, how do we go about following the police department?
Yep. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn now officially. We reopened our LinkedIn. And it's at City of WS Police on
Okay.
all platforms. So our main one is Facebook and Instagram right now. You'll see our reels. We just started a new series with the chief called Ask the Chief. That will be every month. So you'll see kind of all of our fun stuff on there. And then LinkedIn for job postings and stuff like that. So
Awesome.
Will you see Officer Allen doing like practicing for the breakdancing competition in the Olympics?
she'll be doing her DCC routine out on the field, and we'll film that. Yes.
It will be humorous.
It will be humorous.
She's been
She
training
will
for
be
months.
there.
I have watched that show intently. Yes, I'm ready.
So she will be there for that.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming
Thanks
to
for having
chat
us.
with
Thank
us.
you.
This was fun. So be sure to give a follow to the Winston-Salem Police Department. And last thing, when is the next recruitment class begin? Or
So we're aiming to start in December, I believe. So we end in September, but people can apply all throughout the year. And when
Okay.
you start as a pre-hire, and you actually get paid a portion of your salary, and you just kind of sit and hang out until the class starts. So.
and how do you go about who should they reach out to if they're interested?
They're going to reach out to a recruiting unit, and you can find the information on our website, which is joinwspdnow.org.
Okay.
And there's a form and there's a phone number that they can reach out and start to take the reading test.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, Annie and Chief Allen, thank you so much.
Thank
it was
you very
so nice
much.
to chat with y'all.
Thank you.
And as always, you can find Forsyth Mags, all of our content online at forsythmags.com. And we're also on Instagram. We are not on Twitter, though, at Forsyth Mags on Instagram and Facebook. And that's a wrap for today. The views and opinions stated on this podcast are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting companies. This podcast is copyrighted and cannot be reproduced without expressed written consent of Forsyth Magazines Incorporated. Ooh, that's a mouthful.